Dude, man, I can wear this on a date.
People who are most successful are the ones who don't just give up.
Hey, how good are these to-go boxes?
Our to-go boxes, they're not good. They're f***ing amazing. How did we get started here at Albemarle Paper? Well, late 2008, my cousin John and I started this paper company, and we got all sorts of different products.
Hey, Nick, come on, man. Let's get to work.
We got cleaning products, too. You got a party this weekend? We got your back. Anything you need here at APS. Plates, napkins, silverware, table covers. We got everything covered, right, boys? What other items do we carry? Paper towels? I got it. Toilet paper? I got it. Gloves? We got you. Pizza boxes? You're probably wondering, where are we? Where's Albemarle Paper? Don't you worry about that. We got you. I'll bring the product to your front door. See you guys.
Jorge Gonzalez, Top Bin 90. I am excited to announce that we have partnered up with the Graham Street Pub to host a watch party, Charlotte FC taking on St. Louis. The very first away game, we will be here at Graham Street Pub. We've got DJs, we've got fun activities, and you know it's not a Top Bin event without us giving you guys something to take home. We are going to raffle off a signed Swiderski jersey. Yes, sir, a signed Swiderski jersey. Make sure you're here before the game starts, so we will see you here.
Agua pa la seca, todo el mundo en pastilla, en la discoteca. Hey, back at the bank finally after a much anticipated wait. We are back. Very first episode of MLS Corner, the best corner in all of MLS, is back after our first home match. What I was expecting to be a very exciting weekend, I got to be honest with you guys, I feel a little disappointed from this weekend. But nonetheless, let's talk about some of the people that we've got on today. So we've got my man Brian, Bam Mauer Media. How are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. It's always a little hard coming on the show after a loss, but I was really digging the new intro video. I was getting, I don't know if any of y'all got, but like I was getting kind of Lord of the Rings vibes for all my Lord of the Rings nerds out there. The suit of armor was a little Sauron-esque, but yeah, I'm doing well.
That was funny because while that was going on, I looked at, I think it was Johnny from Extra Time. I was like, bro, they do know it's just a soccer match, right? Yeah. And then we've also got my man Lee from CLTSP Fan TV.
What's up, man? I'm good. I think that was the most hype of the game, though. That little clip you just showed. That was it.
It really
burned all that hype up at the beginning.
And we also got my man Sean from the Crown Town Syndicate. Sean, how are you tonight, my man? Hello?
Dude, I'm great. I'm having some connection issues, so if you hear me bouncing in and out, I apologize. I'm going to try to fix that here real quick in a second, but happy to be on here.
No worries, man. Happy to have you guys on. And, yeah, so tonight's show, it's going to be very special. We have a guest coming on in about 20-25 minutes, Santiago, who's going to represent St. Louis. He's the play-by-play announcer for them. And then we also have some clips from an exclusive interview that our man Brian did with none other than Tim Ream, U.S. men's national team defender, Fulham defender, St. Louis born and bred, Tim Ream. Brian, bro, how are you pulling these interviews off, bro? Are you going to leave the show soon or something?
Actually, I got to give a shout out to Tyler. He helped me out with the great email setup, and it's I've been getting a lot of responses. Also, the top bin 90 umbrella, just bringing them in and knocking them down, and just it's been great. Man, he was a really nice guy too, humble, connected on being a fellow Midwesterner, but we'll get more into that as when we get there.
Perfect. And then to start off, so there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about this loss. First, I want to talk about the game specifically, and I want your guys' thoughts and everybody in the comments as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about all the extra stuff that went down. I got to say, like the Twitter, when Charlotte posted the attendance and everybody calling us Attendance FC, I got to say that was hilarious. They were quick with it, and I was like, damn, it's kind of true. Anyways, let's start. First, I want to talk a little bit about this lineup. Were there any surprises from you guys that you saw? Obviously, I think Toloma from the get-go was very interesting. I personally thought Latanzio would go a full instead of Mora, but Mora, in my opinion, had an exceptional game. Then we had Yazviak, which I assumed would start. And then we also had Mackenzie Gaines, which was a little bit of a surprise, but not really, because in my opinion, it was about 50-50 between him and Kerwin. And so I'll start off with you, Lee. Any surprises that you noticed from this lineup, or anyone in the comments as well?
Nah, I mean, I was a Gaines guy anyways. I left last week, right? I wanted him to start. I just are we going to talk about how they performed yet, or are we going to wait?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'd say Carroll had a shit game. I'd say Jaws had a shit game. So, all that dancing for the Peppers was for nothing, because we do it for the Polish guys and they can't even show up and give us a performance. Terrible. What else? I think overall, when Vargas came on, he had a really good game. I would love to see him put something on target other than a header. And then I'd say Westwood had a really good game. I'm excited to see him. And Enzo had a pretty decent game too.
100%.
And I'd say our defenders did a really good job, and they were unlucky to get that goal against them.
Right. And then one of the things that caught me by surprise, I was expecting our forward line, Yazviak, Swiderski, Kopetti, Gaines, to be a very fluid board. I mean, the last two games that we went to, we scored at least 3 goals, right? I was more weary.
We played Charleston and Birmingham, though.
Right, to a degree, right? But I was expecting our back line and our midfield to not be as solid. And it turned out to be the exact same opposite, right? Brian, talk to me about that. Do you feel that same way? Or?
Yeah, I think I was definitely concerned. I mean, it's just a whole new back line, especially when I saw the lineup. I mean, not all, it's just it was a new group that hadn't played together as a back four before, with Tuiloma coming in. And so I was definitely a little concerned.
Well, Tuiloma was the only new guy, though, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Had Mora been in the starting lineup at all, like towards the end of the last season when Byrne was there? Like, I don't think Byrne had been starting towards the end, but Mora really had kind of phased out. So I felt like that group was relatively new. And then when you look at the line in front of them too, you got Westwood and Bronico. Westwood's also new. So it's like it's kind of a newish group of players all playing together. And so that was my concern going in. That concern was quickly remedied. I mean, they played for me, exceptionally well. And they, I think that what stood out to me most was how well they were able to recover even when the line was really high, in countering situations, because that's going to happen like this whole season, right? They're planning on playing with a high line, and they're sacrificing situations where they could get countered. And the fact that all 4 of them really showed, especially Mora, Tuiloma, and Melanda, showed that they were able to recover and stop play and make the clutch tackle at the back line. And they were able to do that over and over again. And I think that's just going to be, I mean, because that's how Charlotte's planning on playing. So that was the huge positive. Negative for me was, it's already been touched on by Lee, but like Swiderski, Uzviak, and Capetti specifically, for me, 2 shots on goal, 1 key pass between the 3 of them. And Kerwin Vargas came on and had 1 shot on target and 3 key passes in like 20 minutes. So I think
the end, or tied it for us at the end. That header.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I feel the issue I have with the front line, I mean, there's the argument that Capetti's going to just take a little bit of time to get, his feet under him. Totally understand that. Swiderski, I don't have an excuse in terms of like him playing a newer role. I think he had already shown that he's able to play there last year. Uzviak is sort of playing. My issue is with the two wings. I didn't have as much of a problem with Gaines as much as just Uzviak and Gaines playing together. My thought was that they put him out there because you have Bai and Jones as fullbacks at New England, two of the best offensive fullbacks maybe in MLS. And so you kind of have your worker bees out there and Uzviak and Gaines. But I think they do kind of the same thing. So when you have both of them together, you're kind of getting the same type of play from both wings in terms of just kind of like they just kind of run fast, they work hard, and then they don't have a ton of creativity to either of their games. And I think that's what Santos and Vargas bring is a different diverse dimension, which is just missing when you have both Uzviak and Gaines. My takeaway is just I think the two of them shouldn't maybe play together because you kind of have the same style of player out there on both sides when you do. I don't know. That was kind of my takeaway.
We didn't look fit though. We looked tired at the end of the game.
I agree.
Right. And then talking a little bit about some of these subs. I know a lot of people, I was shocked myself not seeing Nuno. I think Andre coming into the game and also Kerwin coming into the game brought some new life into this team. Sean, do you agree? What did you see?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the fact that the game was fun to watch for the last 20 minutes in compared to the first 70 where there was no action. I mean, the game plan was very clear. We're crossing the ball to Copetti and Carroll every single time. That's what we're doing. We're not going to work down the middle. And New England recognized that immediately and just sat in the middle and didn't let us do anything. And without any creativity from the outsides, there was no offense. So once we had those subs in where they were willing to take a step inside, I mean, every single time Josvia got the ball, he wasn't willing to cross. He'd take a step in and then pass it back. And when he did cross, it wasn't a good one. No quality services from the outside for 70 minutes. We got the first quality service. I mean, even set pieces, guys. Like Westwood was fantastic most of the game, but his corners were not good. We couldn't get ahead on a ball to save our lives. We were beating the box every time.
Yeah, I agree a lot. I mean, to me, like I said at the beginning, or I think I mentioned it to you guys prior to this starting, my expectations for the night were like so high. I'm like, bro, we've got almost 70,000 people in the stadium. And then it slowly went like, Pew. And so I want to get into that, man. What the hell happened in the general admission? There's a lot of things that happened, right? That I'm like, okay, like it felt like the atmosphere was off. Every reporter and journalist I talked to after was like, you know what? Like sound and everything, it felt off. And as the next day came in, you start finding stuff out. So I'll leave the floor to you, Sean. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So when the season started, man, operations came to us as a council and was like, hey, like we are thinking about not holding 121. We don't have the staff for it. How do you guys feel about that? And we were like, personally, my group doesn't sit there. At that point, all the groups had kind of spread out to their own spot. So a lot of us were just like, all right, like if that's what y'all think's going to do, we hold the right to say you're wrong later on and try to reverse this. And so, looking back on it now, there were groups that definitely stood up and said, this is what we want to do. And, overall as a council, though, we made a decision. And you have to remember that when the council makes a decision, every group's involved. And so we made the decision that it wasn't going to do it. And we see the result. The result is that everyone who does the chants was spread out so far out and the marchers were all over the stadium. And so now we don't have that collaborative together doing the chants. So it's not echoing around. It's not being heard by everybody. And it caused that to not be as exciting. And you have to, on top of that, the section was incredibly overcrowded because of the lack of the ability to check tickets. Best was overwhelmed. Having 3 people for 3,000, 4,000 was not enough. And you overwhelm those. It was a mess. You can't hear anything. Yeah, water. You couldn't hear the drummers. You couldn't hear anything. And when you did hear the drummers, you'd hear 6 different beats. So you didn't know where the chant was starting or going. No one around me was chanting. I ended up off to the right of the supporters section. So, it's something that obviously my phone's been blown up about for the last couple or since during the match. And, we're going to work to get some fixes together. Fortunately, every time we had a problem last year, we were able to find some way to fix it. And so we're working on it again.
Yeah, but you would think, I mean, even if, I don't know, I didn't hear anyone say that there wasn't enough staff for this, right? So I can't put my stamp of approval on that comment. But what I can say is like, hey, you guys knew you had almost 70,000 people coming here, right? And so, like, I've seen a lot of comments and tweets going back and forth about, like people saying, hey, we were in the supporters march, and you know what, like, you weren't, we should have some sort of right or have at least a section roped off where we can actually come and the supporters be together. And then there's other people saying, well, it's general admission, so anyone's allowed to sit anywhere. Lee, give me your thoughts on just the experience going into the stadium and what happened from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the march was awesome, man. Like, everybody was into it. Good vibes, man. There were people waiting to take pictures of the march and the videos of the march, and it was just awesome. And then it was like we got into the stadium, and typically this is our second year, right? So we figured, hey, this is just like it was at the end of last year. And you start walking in, and one, you got to show your tickets. But what was happening is we had to get our phones out because it's, and show the tickets. So while there's a big hold up there, people were just running around them too and just going down. And then the time we got in there, man, it was like, I mean, you saw the pictures. There was the bottom half was pretty much filled up before we even got in there.
Right.
And also what I'm thinking is like people that bought those $15 tickets were probably running down there too. And when I went down there the second half just to kind of go hang out with Chico and Co for a minute, people were trying to fight me and stuff, man. It's like, this is ridiculous. It's like, it was nothing like it was last year at all. And, Sean, I know you guys work hard on the council, man, but I just feel like we had 17 home games last year, right? Why are we still having to work on this in season 2?
Why change something that wasn't broken?
Yeah.
No.
Right. It
but
worked.
The way it was pitched to us is not what the product finally turned out to be. And, I saw that comment about, I heard the staff excuse. Yeah, it wasn't meant as an excuse, man. We made a decision as a council and it didn't work out. Not everything we do is going to be right, but, know that we're working to justify everything we do, or not just, we're going to make it correct. And fortunately, we won't have 70,000 people there every week. Well, not fortunately, it'd be freaking awesome if we had 70,000 people there every week and we could figure that out, but we won't. We'll have 32 and we won't have people coming from the upper levels with their tickets and trying to get in. We won't have a lot of the problems we dealt with this week, but just know that we see the tweets, we see all the comments, we hear everything you guys are saying, and we're working to make something better happen. Because frankly, I want my experience to be good too. I sit in that section as well. And so I want to make sure I'm having fun. And the way to have fun is when we're all chanting together, we're all marching together. We're all having the best time together. It's a unified section and has been, and we're going to get back to that.
Yeah, and I mean, people were bitching like, well, that's elitist mentality, the whole space and all that other stuff. Why don't you teach the new fans the chants and stuff? And it's like, dude, we have chant night every Wednesday. Like, you can go to chant night. We give out cards. We got the QR codes. It's like, it's not a matter of teaching you to chant. It's a matter of, one, reading and chanting, and then two, understanding that in order for the drums to sound good, the drummers all need to be next to each other. It was just a mess, man. It was one of the worst experiences I've had.
Nice. And then you guys feel like we need some sort of general admission and supporter sections split? Because you know what? I did see some comments from people from the club as well talking about those general admission people have the same right as supporters. And I'm like, that's true, but there's also more context to that, right? I mean, a lot of people work hard and for free to, do the TIFOs, to learn the chants, to be there for the team. The least you could do is try to protect where they sit so there'd be a great atmosphere for the whole stadium, for themselves as well. And that just, to me, I was like, I don't know if I would have approached it that way, because you know what? Like, I'm on the supporters on this side where, like, you know what, like, a lot of people do a lot of hard work. They dedicate their time and they give it to this club for free.
Yeah. Right. Same with like at college games, they have a student section, and there's a student section that's like a student section for a reason. Because it creates an atmosphere that behooves everyone within that experience. And I think that's part of what is in the same context what a supporter section is for. It helps enhance the experience for both supporters and just the atmosphere and culture as a whole, because that's how like the Poznan will continue to spread, right? The cohesion within the supporters. That's how the chant. I mean, if people are concerned about learning the chants and stuff, one of the great ways is if all the supporters that have been spending Wednesdays chanting and doing are together, and then that's how those contexts kind of spread throughout the stadium. So like that's also, I think, a big part of it too, is why everybody kind of in the sports section needs to be together in that context. It's more than just the fans being in that section. It's because that's how that atmosphere grows. It has to be together.
So, I mean, I was talking to some of the Galaxy boys, and they do, right? They have different sections for different supporters groups, right? So just to use ours, for instance, want to be Min City, want to be Blue Fiera, want to be Southbound, or whatever, right? But that they did that, and then once their members had filled in, then they allowed everybody else to fill in around them. Yeah. And I mean, we're not going to have the atmosphere that we're used to having if the elitists are all spread out.
100%. I mean, even like, I feel I would have much rather be on here tonight talking about a spectacular win by Charlotte FC. We're out here talking about that. We're talking about how the team played very poor, in my opinion, and also what happened to Volare. Sean, do you have any insight on that?
Dude, we've been the feedback's been pretty minimal on that, but from what I heard, basically the team did not know if they were supposed to play it after a loss, so they just didn't play it at all.
What?
I thought it was every game is what the impression was.
That was the impression I was given too. So that's just what I heard. I can't say it came from a good source or not, but I mean, to me, like, we sat there and waited, and I made actually, funny story. I made a friend of mine wait, and because he waited, he ended up running into a girl outside the stadium that he met a while ago, and good for him. But yeah,
that's a wingman for you right there.
Hey, I just wanted to sing with my friends. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I wanted to cheer. I mean, I sat there and cheered my team on kind of alone. I had Jill next to me who shot. I didn't realize that my fiance knows every word to every chant, but I could finally hear it for the first time this season because it was just me and her chanting on that section. And so, we sat there and we waited and waited and waited. And I'm sitting there and I'm just convincing the guys, like, no, they're coming. And I tweeted at Fuchs afterwards. I was like, man, get your boys. Like, you brought them here every game last season. You're the one who started the rush to the fans. You came by and said thank you no matter win or loss. We didn't have a whole lot of losses at home last year, but every time he was there. And I was like, I need that same energy. Bring it back.
Yeah. And the people were bitching about flags. It was just like, come on, man. Like, just, God, man, Charlotte sports.
So there's a new rule this year, or not a new rule, a new ask from operations is that 6 flags per section. So now we can have a guarantee that flags will be in the upper level, but just 6 per section. So, the split between general admission and supporter section, I've heard that a bunch. I've seen that brought up. It's not something we've talked about yet, but I mean, doesn't it make sense? Doesn't Atlanta do it? Don't other groups do it with success? Shouldn't we follow what's been working for other people? So I'm hopeful that idea gets brought in, but don't get mad about flags. You can get mad at me if I'm waving Danny DeVito in your face and you're like, I don't understand why you have a Danny DeVito flag. I don't get it. Come talk to me about that. That's fine. I'm happy to tell you why I bring Danny DeVito to every game. But, don't get mad that someone's waving a flag. That's their way of being a fan. You can't get mad at someone for their way of being a fan.
So put Carol's comment back up, Jorge.
Which one?
The first one about the, yeah. So, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. I mean, the chants are out on the websites, on SoundCloud. I mean, we've pushed it. I mean, we can only do so much, right? I mean, I'm not saying that like my mom, for instance, if she was going to the game, obviously she wouldn't know where to find the chants or what to chant. But I'm just saying the material was out there. I mean, and for people to say, well, we just don't know him, it's getting to the point. Come on, you can lead people to what's it? You can teach a person to fish, but you can't have him ride a horseback without a saddle or whatever the hell the saying is.
That's it.
And I think it's more on like this is what happens too in the world in general. The casual fans or people who aren't there so quick to give their 2 cents on what's going wrong without doing any investigation, without trying, right? They're just like, oh, well, that's bad. You guys should do something better. I'm like, right? So I think we get a lot of that as well, So, and the people that work hard that are giving out ideas and putting stuff out, like, I see where you're coming from, where you're like, bro, this is out there. It's not even that hard to find, so.
No, and I mean, Yeti Clan said they put the QR code up. I mean, it's there. And it's like, half the people there were just there for photo ops and Instagram reels. Like, I bet you we could ask half of them that left the stadium, at least in the supporters section, what the score was, and nobody would have known.
I mean, shout out David Gussler. I mean, the guy's put in hours of making sure it's on YouTube. There's practices every week. They're accessible to everyone. There's a QR code. He handed out chant cards to people at the tailgate. Like, the guy's busting ass to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be represented in terms of chants too. Like, he's hearing everybody out. So, I'll never accept that complaint.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
it's there.
From Charlotte having a terrible night, we've got to say that St. Louis, the new expansion team, had quite a night, had a spectacular night. And with that, I bring our special guest for tonight, the play-by-play announcer in Spanish for St. Louis, Santiago Beltran. Santiago, how are you tonight, my man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
For sure. We're glad to have you here, man. Obviously, you kind of heard a little bit of the back end. We're complaining about everything that went wrong with Charlotte, week 1. But it sounds like for St. Louis, everything went right week 1. First of all, talk to us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into the St. Louis first historic match for you guys.
Sure. So I do the play-by-play broadcasting in Spanish for St. Louis City SC. Previously, I did it for St. Louis FC in USL, St. Louis Ambush in MASL, indoor soccer. Last year, I did St. Louis City 2. And I also have a digital media outlet, Literary Sports Media. We cover St. Louis sports in Spanish, mostly soccer.
Nice. I love that, man. So you're very intertwined with the St. Louis culture, right? And the soccer culture. How much of a buzz was there in your city after that win against, a pretty much who people think is a contender for an MLS Cup this year, to go and win in Austin at Q2 Stadium? That's pretty big. That's a really great way of, coming into MLS. Give us your thoughts on that game in particular.
It was amazing for the city and for the fans. Obviously, as you said, Austin is supposed to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference, and expectations, I think people didn't have a lot of expectations. I even talking to some friends, they were expecting a loss. I was a little bit more optimistic. I was expecting a tie, but I knew it was going to be difficult. But definitely St. Louis was very solid defensively, controlled Sebastian Drusi really well, except that goal he scored. That it was a great goal, and it's like he has a great vision of the field, and he saw that Roman Berkey was outside of the box and went for it. So he had a great shot there. But other than that, he wasn't at the game for a lot of passages. For moments, I was doing the play-by-play. I was like, where is Drusi? There were sometimes spans where he wasn't at the game at all. So St. Louis had a great plan to defend against him, and everything went well for St. Louis. Obviously, one thing that was key to the game was the injury for Cascante early in the game. and then Kippy Keller went in, and obviously, as you know, he was on the 3 goals and had that unfortunate play on the second goal, which
Somebody's got pictures on somebody.
yeah. So obviously that gave St. Louis a chance to basically go for the game and continue attacking. And then Klaus, great play. He was out of gas, and he had actually the coach was actually thinking about taking him out, and he begged, "No, let me stay," and it paid off. So great for St. Louis. For me personally, is like one step at a time. It is a process. There will be highs and lows. It's great that the team won the first game and now come to St. Louis for the home opener with 3 points, and against a Charlotte team that lost and obviously will be looking to get a result.
100%. And then, all right, we've talked a little bit about, how historic that is. Now, I went back and watched the game too, and I'm like, okay, like part of it was, what St. Louis did, but also a big part of that was what Austin did not do, right? I mean, I think defensively they were terrible. Kip Keller is going to remember that night for the rest of his life. I think Stuver on that first goal as well came out, mistimed coming out. And so I want to hear from some of our Charlotte guys as well, and people in the comment section. Brian, talk to us about that St. Louis game. Give us your thoughts. How worried should Charlotte FC really be about St. Louis?
I would say the guy that stuck out for me was Edouard Lewin. Like I think they got a hit out of that midfielder there. Their DP midfielder. I think he, for me, stood out. He seems like he's a really good passer of the ball. And it seems like they have a corner kick taker. That was what Charlotte was desperately lacking last season, which is what we're hoping Westwood can continue to be this year. But it seems like they found one out of the gate in Lewin. I think for me, that was the one play that really, really stood out. I mean, Klaus's goal at the end, but at that point, like he's doing that again, it's Kip Keller, who's already been at the butt end of 2 straight goals. And so it was a good play with the ball, and but I don't know if he's going to have as easy a time with Addison, Malanda, and Tuiloma back there, right? So, I do have a decent amount of confidence, especially now after seeing Tuiloma and Malanda play together once, that our back line should pose a challenge that is significantly harder than what Austin FC. And Austin FC, even before the Cascante injury, their back line was already the big question mark for them. So, I think Charlotte, even though we didn't get the result that we were looking for, we showed that the question mark in the back line isn't maybe as big of a question mark as we maybe initially thought. Yeah. And so I'd say we should be able to hold them to less than 3 goals. It's just whether or not we can find the net. That was the huge issue for us. So that's where we got to find a result, is in our creativity in the attack.
Right. Love it. And then before we get more into the tactical side and talking about St. Louis versus Charlotte, we do have a special interview that we did with St. Louis born Tim Ream, so U.S. men's national team player, also for Fulham, who are excellent this season, right? I mean, he's been a big part of that as well. And so we just wanted this quick interview. We're playing a clip of it. Tomorrow we drop the full thing, and so we'll hear from Tim Ream.
How big of an impact do you think St. Louis City SC will have on the city and on the community?
No, I think it's huge. When you talk about soccer cities, it's one of the originals, right? And I know there's always this debate on what's the capital, right? What's the soccer capital of the U.S. And I think it's a little bit naive to still say that it's one kind of area. It's one city. I think historically, of course, St. Louis is a big player in that, but I think for the community as a whole, for the soccer community is huge, right? And I've said this in other interviews, is that for families to be able to take time out of their weekend and all go to a game, for moms to take their sons or their daughters, for dads to make the walk with either the supporters or with, all the other fans. I didn't get that, right? And I didn't have that. And I think that's important for the young kids and the young players to be able to have that, to have an MLS team, a first team, a professional team to look up to.
Who do you think is going to be St. Louis's biggest rival?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I think it'll depend on who you ask, for sure. I think you obviously have there's a natural rivalry with Chicago, right? St. Louis sports, Chicago sports.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. So I was
okay. So you know exactly what that is. I think that's natural, but I think in terms of, and nothing against Chicago, nothing against the Fire and that, but I think with the way kind of Kansas City overtook the soccer scene from St. Louis over the past probably 5 to 10 years, with them having, obviously they've had the MLS team for a long time, but the success of the Kansas City team over the past 5 to 10 years is what I mean by overtaking and overshadowing St. Louis. I think it'll be Kansas City, personally.
Personally, he thinks it'll be Kansas City. And before we dissect that, we have officially found the comment of the night. And the comment of the night is brought to you by Tyler Trent, who says, my man is taking a shower while talking with Brian. Brian, can you confirm or deny? Was he or not about to take a shower?
Cannot confirm or deny. I was too focused on the fact that I was talking to a U.S. men's national team player to even notice the background.
I didn't even notice it too until he mentioned that, and I watched the whole interview.
That was great.
Nice. Awesome. All right, let's get back into it. Something I thought you asked a great question about rivalry, and I want to ask Santiago that as well. Who do you see maybe as that potential rival for St. Louis? I know it's way too early to talk about it, but we're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, so I'll go with Sporting Kansas City, just because Kansas City is 2.5 hours away from St. Louis, and there are already some rivalries in baseball, Cardinals and Royals, and back in the days when NFL was here, also St. Louis Rams, Kansas City Chiefs. So that's the natural rivalry. And this year, they're actually going to play 3 times, 2 times here in St. Louis and 1 time in Kansas City. But it's funny, I was thinking about this earlier today, and among some friends, among some people in the soccer community here in St. Louis, we actually have a joke about St. Louis and Charlotte being a Clásico. And I'm going to tell you why. Like early in the days when St. Louis was starting to build the team, your former, I don't remember what his position was, but Nick Kelly, president, thank you. When St. Louis launched their app, like he made a comment about it, and a lot of people were commenting, specifically good friend of mine, Matt Baker, like he had a back and forth with Nick. So we baptized the St. Louis versus Charlotte, the Matt Baker Clásico, Matt Baker Derby, and we make jokes about it all the time. Nothing against you guys, but it's just fun to talk about it. So when the schedule came out, hey, we finally got it. Charlotte against St. Louis.
Did it show up in the app really quick, though?
No, unfortunately not.
Nice. Well, you know what? I do have to say something about Matt, too. He gave us a lot of stick for building with a lot of international players. And then when you guys did it, he went around and said, oh, what a great thing that St. Louis is doing. Which is it? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Or is it just good when your club does it? Right?
Yeah.
They have a whole team of DP.
I'm going to have to ask him.
Yeah.
You can ask him tomorrow night on CTFC Fan TV at 9 o'clock Eastern.
100%. Awesome. Let's get into it then. St. Louis City SC versus Charlotte FC, right? The battle of the inaugural teams, the battle of Matt Baker, the battle of the apps, the battle of PSL, the battle of whatever you want to call it starts this weekend, right? I mean, I'm very excited about this. I really want to spoil St. Louis party. I'm sorry, Santiago. That's what we want to do. We want to go in there and win. Sean, talk to me about this game.
Man, in my opinion, two different results last week are coming with two different attitudes. Home opener, large crowd, sold out, excitement. It's a lot to live up to, as Charlotte's learned twice now. I'm saying 1-1 draw. I don't think Charlotte finds all the offense, but we find enough to draw. And I think that possession wise, we dominate, but don't do a whole lot.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail. I think that's one of our biggest issues right now. Lee, I want to ask you a question. One of the things that I see from this team in Charlotte FC so far, I know it's still a young team, but they haven't really learned how to rise to the occasion. What I mean by that is last year we were very close to making playoffs, right? You needed a win against Columbus, and that didn't come. You tied 2-2. You go preseason undefeated. I know preseason, it's not really indicative of what you can do during the season, but you go into the first game of the season with 70,000 people, and you have a very, very poor game, right? And contrary to St. Louis, go into this game on a high because they just beat Austin FC, the Western Conference finalist, who lost to LAFC last year, right? Is it better that Charlotte goes into this game after a loss? Because in my opinion, I feel like there's slightly less pressure now, and St. Louis has more of they beat Austin, so surely they could beat.
Well, the pressure is definitely on St. Louis, right? I mean, it's their first home game ever at their stadium. They're playing the other new young boys, right, if you will, like the new club in the league, right? So, theory there is that yes, there's possibility that they can beat us, go 2-0, and then we forever have to hear about how they clapped us or whatever, yada yada yada. But to your point, though, I mean, we saw it last year. Regardless of how many fans we had in the stadium, 70,000, 35 stadium, it didn't matter. We were just inconsistent all season, right? We would go on runs here, and then we would have losing runs. So, I think Charlotte's issue was more that we just couldn't stay consistent versus the pressure. I mean, we saw Kalina's howler against, the last game of the season that cost us the playoff spot, in my opinion. But to St. Louis, I don't know. St. Louis has got a lot of pressure on them this weekend, man. There's a lot of hype. I'm sure the city's really buzzing. Everybody's expecting them to beat us. And, we can go in there, score the first goal, hopefully early enough, shut up the crowd. And I mean, it's only 22,000 people anyways, right? So, it should be an easy win for us.
Okay, he went to the exact opposite and say it's an easy win. Santiago, I want to talk to you, my man. Talk to me about, obviously we've seen this high press from St. Louis as well. What are you think some of the keys for St. Louis to pull this result against Charlotte FC, being that this is their first inaugural match at home?
Yeah, so obviously there is a lot of pressure for St. Louis because it's the home opener and you want to win your first game. But for St. Louis, I think stay within their principles, continue playing that high press and do what they did against Austin, what they have been doing. And this is something a lot of people doesn't know. Like last year, St. Louis had St. Louis City 2, and some of the players signed with the first team. Actually, 3 players last week had their debut in first division, and they were City 2 players. And the 7 international players, 7 of the international players joined St. Louis City 2 last year around July. So they have been training, getting to know the system. So if you think about it, St. Louis had a really long preseason. So these guys are used to the system, are used to it. So I'll say just continue playing within those principles. Obviously, Charlotte has some good players, especially up front with Swiderski. So obviously, St. Louis is going to have to keep an eye on him, kind of do something similar to what they did to contain Sebastian Drusi. But St. Louis will stay within their principles. I don't think they're going to change much. Yeah, they will maybe keep an eye on some specific players, but St. Louis will stick to their principles and play what they know how to play.
Love that here. One of the things we've noticed, right? One of the players to watch out is obviously Klaus. You know, like he scored the match winner for you guys. Is there anyone else that you think Charlotte should be aware of that's a threat?
Well, definitely Leuven. He showed against Austin all the things that he can do. He can be a defensive midfielder, and he can also, if he wants, if the team changes lineups, he can just go as an attacking midfielder and build the attack. So he's very he can play in multiple positions. So he's one of the players to watch. Also, in defense, Tim Parker, he is the leader of that defense, and he scored against Austin. But definitely Leuven and Klaus, which are the two designated players, would be the players to watch.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks for that. And then I want to talk to Brian as well. Brian, talk to me about what Charlotte needs to do in this match. Obviously, Santiago touched a little bit about Swiderski, right? Who, in my opinion, had a very, very poor game. I think everybody saw it against New England, and we're really going to need him to step up this next game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to him. I think it also comes down to the rest of our midfielders as well, and our wingers in terms of how they control the ball, right? Because we're going to have the ball for a lot of the game. I think probably at least I would expect 55 to 60% possession, but it's like, how can we not turn the ball over in dangerous areas, which is what St. Louis is going to look for. They're going to look for turnovers to be able to attack quickly and directly. And we have to be able to prevent that. And the way to prevent that is by having stable control of the ball. I think that's going to be key. I think there's a decent chance Jones gets a chance in the midfield because of that, because of his ability to stay strongly on the ball. I also would like to see Nuno Santos, I think, is another player in this game that I think could be really valuable in terms of helping us control the ball a bit better, and also be able to be direct and get behind the press of St. Louis and get behind them. So I think those are all going to be key aspects to this game. But I think Swiderski hopefully comes out angry, like read some comments, right? Gets pissed.
Right. And it comes out the angry, right? Because sometimes Swiderski comes out like, you see him on the pitch and he's like is complaining too much. And I'm like, bro, stick to your game. You know, you're the most technical player in this Charlotte squad. You know, lead this team, right? And so I want to ask Lee as well. Lee, what changes, and everyone in the comment section as well, what specific changes would you make in that starting 11 for Charlotte FC?
Charles definitely gets benched, right? Gaines is a toss-up for me. I
think he was poor too this weekend, though.
Gaines or Jaws?
Both, but I think Gaines reminded me of like very early on.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, so yeah, I'd say, and then I'm torn if you put Jones in or not. I think Brian kind of broke it down really well. Bronico, he's a workhorse. It's just, I think our problem is just that final third, man. We don't have any creativity, and for whatever reason, we're scared to shoot outside the box.
Right. And then, Sean, talk to me as well, my man. I think our newest DP, Copetti, he ran all game, right? The guy has the intensity. That's why he was brought in. But in my opinion, he didn't have the service to really impact the game, right? What kind of changes would you make going into St. Louis?
So for me, as a coach, you have to look at who your best players are. And I don't feel like we put our best players on the field given the formation we're running. I don't think keeping Nuno off the field is the best move for Charlotte. He's shown that he can have that creativity that we didn't have in the midfield. I think that we're relying too much on wingers that haven't showed us there can be relied on. When the whole game plan is to get it out to them and then to put it back in, and they can't do that, our game plan falls apart. I'd love to see us move to 2 up top with Kopetti and Swiderski working together. They've shown they can do it. There's flashes of it all preseason. It's just a couple games away from being together, and I don't know how you build out the rest of it after that. But I do know that Nuno needs to get back on the field. Bronico, I mean, man, he was offense for the first 70 minutes from the back. He was the only one who drove the ball down, made defensive plays with his feet, and then turned them into offense.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. I think I saw people like giving Grant stick. I'm like, bro, I think he had a good game. He was everywhere.
It was everywhere.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think also someone mentioned as well, Shinya Shiki, the energy that the team brought in the last 20 minutes, and Latanzio talked about it in the press conference afterwards, was Andre Shinyashiki and his mentality and how he's been playing, like in training, right? And so I think that's a guy, maybe we don't see him from the beginning, but he definitely has to come in at some point in the game. And I think it's universally agreed between all Charlotte FC fans that Kerwin Vargas has to start this weekend, right? And so especially if we're looking to get a result away from home.
Yeah, and I think I talked with you about it, man, where I was like, I think Andre's going to be buried. And I think he proved in that first game that he will not be buried. He deserves to be able to get to see the pitch. So prove me wrong immediately.
Yes. Question for you, Santiago. Does St. Louis play on grass or turf? Do you know this?
Yeah, grass.
Nice. That must be nice. I think also, I mean, yeah, because you know what? I don't think Enzo Copetti, our DP, meant this as an excuse, but he's right. He's like, you know what? Like, it's going to take some time getting used to this field, right? And I mean, Panthers players have complained about it. Charlotte FC players have complained about it, right? Like, having a turf field.
Tepper's pockets are not complaining about it.
It's the same conversation where we can kill it to the ground and nothing's going to happen, right? So it's more of, okay, we have to deal with it. And when players complain, we'll talk about it. But the club's really not going to do anything about it, right? So.
I don't know, man. Tepper just needs to build a new stadium, man. I mean, look at all the technology out there. I mean, shit, one Premier League team's getting an F1 circuit under their stadium. Come on, we just want grass.
That's hilarious. Nice, awesome. And then I do want to get into a little bit of score predictions. And we'll leave our special guest Santiago's score predictions. I'm going to let you go last. I want to hear everybody.
We're just going to roast him, man. Let's roast him. Go ahead, Santiago. You can go first, man.
Be nice. Be nice.
I am being nice.
Okay, I'll go. St. Louis 2, Charlotte 1.
Oh, nice. I like it, man. Backing up your team.
Biased.
Who do you think gets that game winner for you guys?
I'm gonna go with Tomas Ostrak.
Okay. Nice. All right, Brian, talk to us about the scoreline.
I'm gonna go. So last week I predicted a blowout for Charlotte, and that did not pan out at all. So I'm keep it a little bit more even keel and see if Charlotte can't turn the tide and prove me wrong again. I'm gonna go 1-1 draw. I think I definitely think we can contain St. Louis's attack a little bit. Definitely better than Austin did, and I think we're going to find the net this week. Latanzio is going to find some solutions and maybe make a change or two that help us get a goal and get on the score sheet. But we just have been so poor on the road that it's just hard to be convinced about a win, especially after last week.
Yeah, but we were great at home and we lost our opener.
Yeah, maybe we'll just be great on the road. That would be terrible.
What's your score prediction?
Me?
Yeah, bro, you.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to point out that we did lose our home opener last season too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 1-0 Charlotte. 35th minute. Carol watches the show, gets pissed off, and proves us all wrong, and then it's just gonna be a nervous second half.
Nice. Sean, my man, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking 1-1. I think we get a goal from one of our defenders off a corner kick. Westwood listens and hears me and plays the beautiful balls he's known for, and one of them goes in off a head. We're not great on the road. as Brian said. So I think 1-1 we draw. I would love to be proved wrong.
Nice.
Please prove me wrong.
Awesome. And I'm going to go. A lot of you guys aren't giving our team that much of a chance, but I definitely am. I think it's going to be a 2-0 win, 2 goals from Enzo Copetti. He's going to step on that St. Louis grass, and in his subconscious mind, he's going to go back to a couple of years ago being at Racing and scoring a double, and he's going to say, you know what, today is my day. They're going to come out there. They're going to silence St. Louis. And, man, the app derby is going to go to us this first one.
The app derby. No, it's the Baker.
The Baker derby.
The Baker derby. The Baker derby. I love it. I love it.
Can we get a goal call before you go, Santiago?
The Perina derby.
Sure.
All right, let's hear. Let's hear.
Okay, I'm going to basically call the goal from Klaus from Saturday. So, okay, obviously it's gonna be in Spanish because that's what I do. Okay, so let's go.
Go.
Edward Luben con el balón, se la pasa a Nico Joaquini tiene picando a Klaus por la derecha, la pasa a la derecha, Klaus entra al área, engancha, es aquí Keller, tiene para rematar, remata, al arco, ¡gol! De Serie C!
All right, now you're not allowed to do it on Saturday.
All right, so now can we do it when Charlotte scores a goal against St. Louis?
I think he mispronounced Capetti there. I think he was trying to say Capetti. I think he mispronounced.
It's lost in translation.
You got some shoes. This is why you have to watch soccer in Spanish, guys. I'm sorry. Anytime I can watch soccer in Spanish, this is why. It's just always more exciting. Like, I'm hyped now even more to go into watch this game now. So, right. And then I did want to ask you this also, Santiago. Someone asked it earlier. Tyler, who's your favorite Colombian team?
My team is Once Caldas de Manizales. I grew up in Manizales, so grew up watching soccer, watching Once Caldas, and had some great years. Like 20 years ago, won the Copa Libertadores, but the last few years have been really bad. But still, my team. I support in the highs and the lows.
Love it, man. That's what it
Makes
is.
you a true fan. Makes you a true fan.
Right. Hopefully, Colombia, just like Honduras, can make this next World Cup, bro.
I hope so. Like with 16 teams qualifying, we have to make it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think even CONCACAF now has 3.5, even with USA, Mexico, and Canada.
Yeah, already in.
If Honduras can't make it this time, bro, I'm just not watching soccer anymore. I can't. I can't do this to myself anymore. Nice. And then we also wanted to touch quickly on a Charlotte FC Academy player, now part of Crown Legacy FC, Brian Romero, who's going to be returning from U.S. Youth National, the CONCACAF Championship tournament. I mean, he had a good tournament. He started the final. Unfortunately, they lost to Mexico. But overall, it's really good to see one of our own, in this development phase. Brian, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think just the two things. He played mostly right wing from what I saw. His crosses and his passing looked really, really strong throughout the tournament. They did a lot of rotating, which was, I think, really, really important for how many games they played. But they rotated him in to start. I think it's key to notice in the quarterfinal, which was against Guatemala in Guatemala. And that was for clinching a spot in the World Cup. And he also started in the final. So for like the two biggest matches within the scope of the importance of that tournament, he started in both those games. So I think there's not only good promise for him in his showing during that tournament, but I think there's probably a good chance that he can make the World Cup roster this summer as well. So
nice. Awesome. Love that. I mean, we'll start off with Sean. Sean, where can we find you at as we're ending the show?
in the supporters section holding the Danny Vito flag. But if I'm not there, at large Jabroni on Twitter, it's really the only one I use.
Perfect. And hopefully you don't get banned again this year, right?
Yeah, man, there's always a chance, but I'm the first formerly banned council member, so if you ever get banned, hit me up. I know how to get back in.
Oh, nice. You're gonna start saying like an illegal course on what to do.
Yes, rehab center, right?
Nice. Lee, my man, where can we find you at?
On all the socials at COTFC Fan TV. 9:00 tomorrow night, we will have Mr. Matt Baker from St. Louis joining us. Hopefully he's ready to get roasted and bring the banter as well. So
19 your time, 8 p.m. St. Louis time, correct?
That's correct. That is correct. So, and if you're not sure, just look it up in our app. And I'm just kidding. We don't have an app. But if we did, that's where you can look it up.
Nice. And then Brian, my man, where can we find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bam Mauer Media. You can also find me all my written content at topin90.com, and interviews coming out on YouTube, like the Tim Ream interview. Also, me and MLS Gone Wild, Blake from MLS Gone Wild. We've got Dropping Points, our fantasy show that we started this year. So you can check us that out on Spotify for that, on YouTube as well. Yeah, a lot of stuff happening. So
yeah, you guys definitely have to check out that Tim Ream interview tomorrow as well. We'll drop it tomorrow morning, and it was great. I mean, for us to have a guy who was at the World Cup with the U.S. men's national team is not a bad thing to get for the show, so which is great. And then my man Santiago, where can we find you at?
So on Twitter, you can find me Santi Beltran STL. And if you guys, anybody in Charlotte wants to listen to the game on Saturday, it will be on KSOK 102.9. They're also broadcasting online on their website and TuneIn Radio and any of those apps. You can find KSOK and find the broadcast. We have a pregame show at 7 p.m. So if you want to listen to the game in Spanish, that's a good option. And for Leader Sports Media on Twitter and Facebook, Leader Sports Media.
Nice, love that. So if you guys want to brush up on your Spanish, right, make sure you listen to Santiago, right? And you guys know where to find me at TopBid90 on every platform, Real TopBid90 on TikTok. And you can also find us at the unofficial TopBid90 watch party this Saturday at Graham Street Pub. We're going to be giving away a signed Swiderski jersey. Yes, signed Swiderski jersey. Hopefully he has a great game so that jersey value just skyrockets at that moment, right? And so with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been another episode of the MLS Corner. Have a good night.